Hey guys, it's Marissa here at Imagine This, an art and music studio, and today we are going to be going over this week's lesson for Art 2, our intermediate art class. So we are going to be painting some eggs, I bet in a way that you've never painted some Easter eggs before. So let's go over supplies really quick. Supplies that you will need are some paint. You can choose whatever colors you want. For example, I chose colors that have to do with the galaxy. I have blue, gold, red, purple, but you absolutely are going to need black and white at least. You're also going to need 2 different paint brushes. I have a larger paintbrush here and then a smaller detail brush so that we can go in and do some little details later, as well as a jar or a cup of water. You're going to need either a palette like I have here to put the paint on. If you don't have that, a paper plate works fine. The eggs that we are going to have, these are going to be provided for you from us here at the studio. I also have a towel here. Paper towel works just as well, just to make sure that we keep the brushes nice and clean from the different paint, as well as a sponge and some scissors. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And just remember, as our good friend Bob Ross once said, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. Let's jump in and have some fun. The first thing that we're gonna do, I'm gonna pick up one of these eggs and paint this entirely black. So I'm just getting a little bit of water off of my paintbrush, dipping into my black. And you are welcome to use either washable paint or permanent paint. Just make sure that if you're using the permanent paint, that you are wearing either paint clothes or something to cover your nice clothes so that you don't stain anything. So I'm almost finished painting this egg entirely black. And when you do, you're going to need to set this aside so that it's completely dry. Don't worry if you get a little bit of paint on your fingers, it'll wash off just fine. So luckily, before we filmed this video, I actually already painted an egg entirely black and it's dry now. So we're gonna go ahead and use this egg that's dry. So I mentioned earlier that we are going to paint these eggs a way that you've probably never painted them before, but I didn't say what we were going to be doing. If you were paying close attention though, you probably noticed that I mentioned having galaxy colors paint. So we are actually going to be painting these eggs like the night sky. We already have our layer of black. So now we're going to be adding on different galaxy colors that represent different planets, different stars, all in the universe. So I have my sponge here. I'm going to cut it up maybe in a few other pieces, just into some small squares. And you can have as many as the different colors that you have. For example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little squares out of these sponges. It doesn't really matter what kind of sponge you use. The sponge that I'm using right now has 2 different sides to it. It has a rough side and it has a smooth side, which might be fun to experiment with different textures and so forth. So the first color that I'm going to play around with is purple. So that's my favorite. I'm going to start experimenting with the rough side actually. So I'm going to dip my sponge here in the purple. And personally, I don't want to cover the whole entire egg with this purple. If you want to do that, that's totally fine. I'm just going to go in here, play around with the textures. You can think about the Milky Way, or if you were to look up into the night sky, what would it look like? So now I'm going to flip around and I'm just going to do the softer side to blend it in a little bit. Now it's hard to see because the purple I have right now is really dark. You guys probably can't see very well what I'm working on. But we're going to add more layers and more layers so it gets lighter and you guys can see a little bit better. So I'm thinking that I might also like to make a little bit of a lighter purple here. So I'm going to set down my sponge and grab my big brush that I was using earlier. Remember to do your butterfly bath, going back and forth down here to make sure your brush stays nice. Wipe it off a little bit. I'm gonna pick up some white, clean off my brush, and pick up a little bit of purple until I get a light purple that I'm happy with. And again, this is gonna be your painting. You don't have to do a light purple if you don't want to. But when I think of the galaxy, I think of purple. I'm gonna put some on here. I'm just gonna use the same sponge, same purple sponge. Now you can probably see that a lot better than the dark purple. So for the next little bit, you can just experiment with whatever colors you want. The only thing is I don't want you to use white quite yet, okay? So I'm gonna pick up a new sponge, get some blue on here. Okay, so I've gone in on this egg and I've added in some light purple, some light blue, some red. So it's starting to look a little bit like the night sky, but now we're gonna go in and we're gonna add a little bit of white to really make those stars pop. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the sponge, I'm gonna use the soft side and just grab a little bit of white. I don't wanna cover the whole entire thing with white, but maybe I'll be thinking of a stream of a galaxy. I'm just gonna do it really lightly, maybe in a zigzag pattern. Then I'm actually gonna grab a clean sponge, go on that same soft side, just to blend it in a little bit. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. Starting to look more and more like the night sky. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab in some gold. Do the same thing, maybe add a little bit of gold into our night sky. And I'm gonna grab a clean sponge, blend that in a little bit, adding some sparklies. Now comes my favorite part. I'm gonna take my small thin brush, gonna get some white. I'm gonna start adding in some little dots to represent stars or planets. You can do them a variety of sizes. If you want them really big, really small. Might also be fun to play around with stars that are a little bit more up close to you. So maybe some of them are shining really bright. Maybe some of them are just dots. Okay, so here is my finished galaxy egg. I hope you guys have fun with this project and we would love to see your photos, so please send some of them in. Bye guys.